Welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about sun transits 24 and 20, 27, 24. I
Right.
get them backwards. Yeah, because it seems like it should be the other way around. Anyway, we're going to explore around and see what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. So we're going to talk a little bit about the last two gates, and that was 42 and 3. I have to check my notes. There's so many gates. So, Christine, would you like to start us off?
I'm actually gonna let Lauren start us off because I think she's always really
Well,
good at like zeroing in on what was, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do it in response.
Christine, I think actually this is a good opportunity to talk about why, because of our designs, that's true. Because um, I think I understand that I can hold on to this more because I have a defined head and ajna, and I may not be sporting that so well through these two gates. But definitely can talk to us about gate three. But you know, uh, I've been feeling a lot of one step forward and one step back, and just about everything I'm going through. And I mean, obviously, our astrology reflects that, human design reflects it, it's all intertangled. Um, I've had a hilarious project that Christine happens to be involved with that would be laughable. I think about this point that we're trying to get a book published, my book, and it literally every roadblock we could hit, we've hit, and some just don't even feel real. Um, so that has me really curious. Um, and then on another side, just to wrap this up, to give you lots to respond to, Christine, in this gate three, this chaos to innovation, and also I really love the sprouting idea from the I Ching. I love that it comes right at the time we're putting plants in the ground. Isn't that fascinating? And that we're watching the bulbs sprout and things come up. But I've had a lot of new opportunities present themselves. Some feel like they're worth following. Some feel like, that's not me. And so I find that really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. I mean, definitely, it makes me question why we tried this book thing in the gate of difficulty at the beginning. That is the hexagram name of it. But but yeah, like it is this idea, right? Like I think we talked about it last time. This like the first hexagram is the most creative, the second hexagram is the most receptive, and then this third hexagram is like the combining of this creative process. And we all know like things are hard in the beginning, right? This is kind of where we're at. And even though we're not like in the beginning of this cycle, we are kind of in the beginning of this growing season, right? So that is kind of interesting that it does fall right here at this time of year every year. I think I will have a newfound respect for it this week. Next year. I think I may try to lay a little lower. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely see that too. And now that you say that for sure, even outside of your project, there's definitely just my own process was very like come into the studio, leave the studio. Come in like I just was like do something, not finish it. If you have, it was kind of that energy the whole time. So that also helps me recognize what was going on for me too.
And just one comment, I have noticed getting a little more traction around some things just over the last 24 hours, which gives me an immense amount of hope. So we might be coming out of this.
Yes.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell
Uh,
us, Lois.
Oh, well, there's a couple of things. One that came up was like when we first came on the call, I said the first thing I said was it's going to snow here today, right? And it's like this, like, well, the leaves are trying to bud, and then they get some snow and it slows everything down. So there's this like getting started with spring actually happening when we're so far actually into it. But for me personally, it's like I'm starting this new contract, and it's like everything's backwards.
Mm,
It's like this recognition, like they brought me in and they said, "Can we use your resume on our RFP?" And we know there's new clients, and you've got a new client, and I'm going, "Yes, but I don't even have a contract," and so there's just been this series of backwards things have gone on to get to the beginning, and it's
yeah.
and
Difficult at the beginning, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the last
Yeah.
week was really turned upside down. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, Lois, I mean, knowing this thing about the gate three that we were just in, did it make any difference for you at all when you were navigating all of this?
Yeah, it would be better to laugh than cry.
Wow.
Well, Christine, that's a really good point because it is, and I always see this like weather. And if you're having really crummy, stormy weather and you dress appropriately, it's a little
Yeah.
easier to deal with. And I think that's what we're talking about is how do you show up for each of these gates appropriately for the
Yeah.
energy that's coming in.
Yeah. 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 And for most of us to be in response, right? Like this is a place where, we could be fighting through the weather, right? Like, well, I'm going to go out and do that thing out there anyway. Or we could be like, you know what? Maybe today isn't the right day to do that task, right? And just like give ourselves some space to not be pushing all the time, right? Especially in just understanding that, again, it's weather, right? Tomorrow may be sunny and I can go out and do that task then and it will be fine.
Well, I think that's been my greatest lesson in working with the land and gardening is, I am not in charge.
Yeah.
I wasn't before I started these projects, but I thought I
Yeah.
was. And
Yeah.
and then I want to give another plug for your amazing calendar that you designed, Christine. Is it still available for folks to
Oh
order?
yeah. 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 It's still there.
Well, look, if you haven't started this yet, I want to highly recommend this because you've got a whole year of weather report right here in your hands. And so I take my schedule of what I think I can do during the week and who I'm meeting with and line it right up on that and then move things if it doesn't feel appropriate for that energy. And we would do that for so many different things in our life. We wouldn't just push against it. And there isn't any bigger energy than the sun.
Yeah.
So might be time to think about it. It's never too late to start.
Yes, I will take that advice myself. I haven't been doing so great the last couple of weeks.
So what's our
Um,
date?
yeah, so let's jump in. 27 is the gate that we're actually entering today. And this is actually interesting because we did a Taurus season discussion with Anastasia. It's on the YouTube channel, which is really good. And one of the things that came out of that discussion for me was this understanding that while we're in Taurus season, which is what we're in now, astrologically, from a human design perspective, almost all of the gates are individual gates. They're going to have this individual empowering energy, right? So you'll be supported in this way to do your own thing, in the way that's correct for you, except for gate 27. So this is the only gate in this long series of gates that's actually tribal. And so it's here as as this is a more supporting energy, like you supporting your group of people close to you and also receiving support in return. This is very important for that tribal energy. And so gate 27 is the gate of caring, right? And to me, this next few days is going to be this excellent space where we can really look at the thing that we've talked about several times here in this container around the difference between caregiving and caretaking. right? And so this is going to be a really beautiful time because this is truly, it's this tribal gate. It's part of the what we call the defense circuit in the body graph. It's very much about um, just what you're doing on the land, Lauren, growing things, right? Like children, plants, like being able to grow and nurture and support the things that are closest and most important to you. And so it's going to be a great opportunity, I think, to really examine, this difference between, and also ourselves. Are we caring for ourselves, right? This is another place that we're really often, especially as women, often not caring enough for ourselves. So I think it's going to be a really interesting a few days to really play around with that.
Well, with the gene keys and the shadow in this one, we're being referred to as selfishness, just sort of related to what you're saying, Christine, is with women and this idea of you're being selfish if you're looking after yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people believe it, right?
Mhm.
Like recognizing that if we look after ourselves, then we can look after other people. And if we don't look after ourselves, we're not much good to ourselves or anyone else.
Yeah.
So that sort of getting over that idea of you're being selfish, because I think as Brene Brown said, that the most compassionate people in the world are the most well boundaried. They have the
Mhm.
healthiest boundaries.
Mhm.
So learning how to have healthy boundaries, I think, would be really important here.
Well, I think to do that, we have to be super aware and rested. Because if we don't have any spaciousness, that's that's when we just give it all away, right? And so it might be a good period of time to really think about how you're resting yourself, and whether that's taking breaks during the day of your work, or that you're getting yourself to bed on time or on a good time schedule. And so I know I brought up oat recently for another gate, but it really applies here as well, folks, because oats is about nurturing. I mean, that plant in so many forms nurtures. If you plant it in soil as a cover crop, it's called a nurse crop.
Mm.
It nurtures and brings back life to the soil. If you use the milky oats as an herb, that's always been used to strengthen and bring back the appetite for life. And in the gemotherapeutic form, we found it really a powerful adaptogen, and particularly useful for those who haven't particularly been had good examples in their life of being mothered and what that looks like, whether that mothering was overextensive, like a helicopter type of mom, or non-existent. They both exist at the opposite ends of the spectrum there. So I think this is a great time to do that. It might be one that we need for a bit anyway, with what's coming up.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, this is the channel of preservation. This is part of the that channel, right? And so it's about caring. This is the gate of caring related to the gate of responsibility, right? And so this thing about boundaries, right? Like understanding what is our responsibility or not, right? And allowing more of those things because a lot of things aren't our responsibility, right? And a lot of things, as we talked about earlier, are not in our control, right? And so this is a place for us to be really paying attention to how much mental activity we put into thinking we can control things, right? And that we do have, a responsibility for something because it's often not true, right? It's just a habit that we've been conditioned into, and it's amazing and difficult to let some of those things go, but it's also amazing how different you can show up in the world if you are giving people the responsibility back to themselves and not taking it from others, right? And
Yeah.
if Oats helps that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it reminds me, Lois, of your teaching in some of the mentoring programs we've done together, is that when we overstep those boundaries, we're actually taking away from the other person. Can you share a bit more about that?
Well, that if we're stepping in and taking over, being in control, or we're the one that can make this happen right for you, we don't give those other people the opportunity to learn and grow. Because sometimes we need to give them space to make mistakes and find out for themselves. So, and that then helps them build some resilience so that they can look after themselves and not constantly be turning around and looking to us because they know we'll do it.
Mm.
Because, like you said, Christine, we've been conditioned to do that. So, it's a for us and it's for them as well. So that's in the not being selfish because it isn't just for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's for you too.
Yeah.
And this caregiving and caretaking, I think, permeates every bit of the relationships we hold. It doesn't matter if they're in the family systems, if they're at work, if they're in organizations that you belong to. And you can see this in any group right away. Who's that person that feels like they have to take on the responsibility of everyone else's experience there? And if that's you, and sometimes that's been me, to note that and dial it back and realize how much more enjoyable it is not to own all that.
Yeah.
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 I think on the other hand, you could look at there are people that you know that are constantly doing that and recognize that maybe you've got a place to step in there and take on some of the responsibility as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or just note to them that they're doing it. Sometimes people don't notice. They don't know, right? They don't know that they can give up responsibility, right? It's just, and again, I think about the Gene Keys, the altruism is the gift and selflessness is the city, right? And I just, in the course of this conversation, just been kind of rethinking a bit about like what do I think of altruism, right? Like I think of altruism as me giving of something of myself. But in this conversation, it makes it seem like altruism is much more like giving other people the opportunity to be themselves, right? Not taking away these things from them, right?
And that I'm doing it for myself as well as for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
It's not just a one-way thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's good for me is good for you.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's also a thread of, I had to look back on my calendar, of Neptune in Aries I'm hearing through here. And this is, what is it time for me to do? What do I step into? And how do I link arms with others and do that thing? And so as we're being called forward to do the things we're born to do, I think this is an opportunity in these 5.5 days, like a little checkup, like how will you be showing up to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Reminds me, Lauren, there is other astrology, other transits going on as well, always, as they always are. And this week is a pretty
Yeah.
significant one,
Yeah.
right? We've got Venus, the North Node, and Saturn all in gate 36 in the human design mandala, which gate 36 is this gate of crisis.
Yeah.
But not bad things necessarily. It's mostly just looking for new experiences, right? So that energy, those three big energies all coming together in that gate say to me, this time is a great time to really think about new ways of being, right? Looking at the things that you're doing, looking at where you're caretaking and considering how would you be caregiving? How would that new experience look, right? Like this might be a great time for that. And also it's a new moon in Taurus on the 27th, right?
Yeah, well,
So another great time to start new things.
well, I was thinking about that and how that new moon shows up just as we roll into gate 24. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, again, I just think about it as this time, this energy, right? We're in this tribal energy in gate 27. We're feeling this thing about caring for ourselves, for others. We're trying to discern what's the line, right? Where do I stop? Where does the other begin? And then in this new moon, it hits, right? And this new moon energy is always very much like, cool, great time to make, not resolutions, but intentions and really look at how we're going to move forward in the next, bit of time and energy. And we fall into gate 24, which is, again, we're back into this individual knowing empowered energy, right? And so we've had this bit of time to really look at this look at ourselves in relationship, and then we get to move into the energy of, all right, cool, how am I going to make this, how am I going to enact this, right, in this next space, for my own empowerment, right? In order to be empowered, in order to allow others to let themselves be empowered too, right? So I don't know. I think it could be really cool.
Feels like a really good time in the shift between these two gates around self-nurturing, like just
Yeah.
doing some small things for ourselves, like, and just sort of taking stock in your own life and saying, what are the little things I can do for myself that are really supportive as I shift from, like you said, this more tribal to this more individual space. So sort of ease that road.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
it a tea or some music or, anything like that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lois, I got so excited because we have all this Saturn energy this week, which gives us a good opportunity to set new routines. So if you've been slippery on that before and haven't felt you had the energy for it, setting some very specific, even adding one or two things, right? Maybe one thing, Lois, maybe that's enough.
If nothing else, just one.
One thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so gate 24, it's interesting. Like I've noticed as we're doing these, the gates that I don't have in my design, and I don't have a lot of people that have the gates. Like I just don't know much about them, right? I haven't really embodied the information as much. And so it was interesting to kind of look at gate 24. Gate 24 is in our head, it's in the ajna. And it's like, again, an individual knowing. So it is this mind energy, and it's called rationalizing. That's the human design name. And in the I Ching, it's called returning. And it does have this in its channel, it attaches to gate 61, which is it's like the gate of mystery, right? And so there is this real energy to be thinking. It's literally a design of a thinker is part of what this energy is. And so there can be this really thoughtful or thought obsessed, like it can, like this returning energy is really true. Like if you look at the gene keys, the shadow is addiction,
Right.
right? And it's this kind of energy of like returning to a thing that even if it's not feeding you in some way, you feel this push to go back over it over and over and over it. And that can be what this 24 can sometimes show up as. And so I don't know exactly, like, as we, how that ties into what we were just talking about. um I guess, again, I'm looking at it from this sort of shadowy side of returning unnecessarily, but it could also be, really examining closely, like, what is it that I want to do next? Like, what is it? How do I want to use this next bit of energy? I'm not sure.
But there's a fear of stepping into something new. And so that returning to what we know, sort of the devil we know aspect of things, that even if it, like you said, doesn't really work for us or support us, we know it. So we'll be more comfortable in that space. And through my work, there's been a lot of work with people who it's really hard to get them out of those uncomfortable spaces because they're just familiar. But that idea of stepping into something new is really frightening for them. So stepping out of their comfort zone, even if they're stepping out of discomfort, is difficult.
Yeah.
There's a lot popping for me right here as both of you talk, and I'm thinking about going back to gate, was it 3 that we just talked about, or 27, excuse me, gate 27, that we had the energy to start saying, how am I going to show up for the group? And then we're back in us, in our head, like, okay, what is that going to take to do that? And I think this is where I connect to this addiction piece, because we can easily be overwhelmed by the steps that we might perceive it's going to take, or that it feels too big for us, or whatever. And I was thinking about this in conjunction with a Gemmo that is actually very helpful when we get into that place of what I would call avoidance and not being able to take the next step forward. And I feel like that might be the shadow of and the low density energy that we might retreat to in this gate, and that doing the thing, just go have some chocolate, or just go scroll on my phone for a bit. I know it never makes me feel better, but I'll do that. Or buy some things online, because doesn't that always make people feel better? Fill that shopping cart, right? And so really all of those things are helping us avoid stepping out and doing the other thing. So leading this a big lead up to what I'm thinking would be hops. And hops is a really fascinating extract I don't think we use enough of. I think a lot of folks are stuck in avoidance, and we all have a piece of ourselves that's avoiding something, right? We're avoiding that call to heal a relationship, or that group we're supposed to join, or the job we're supposed to quit. And if you feel like I'm talking to something that resonates with you, I would look to using hops. And the beautiful thing about it is you can use just one drop only, but you could choose. I would benefit from this more in the evening, because that's where I really get into my avoidance habits. Or I could use this first thing in the morning, so I start my day off in a place where I am present. So it moves you from avoidance to connection.
Interesting. Well, and it seems I'm like, would you say that hops in general is a good thing to get out of your head?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's really interesting, Christine, because our hops would, what we do when we're in our head too much is we pick up something to get us out of our head, right? To overthink. And I think what hops would do is help us override reaching for that other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just wondered because this gate 24 is going to be tricky for that, right? Because we've already got the habits ingrained, and then this energy is a mental energy, right? This wants us to be in our head. It is going to be lit up in our head in a way that some of us aren't used to. And so it seems really cool to maybe have this kind of support that would maybe get you out, help you get out of that space.
Well, hey, and we've just come out of the gate that is helping you start a new habit. What if you did that in preparation for the energy that's going to show up in gate 24?
Interesting.
I think also what would be valuable in this is we've tended in our society to look at it as having developed coping mechanisms, scrolling and things like that, that helps me deal with things, kind of an idea. But is so to look at the things that we turn to either distract us or numb us from what's going on. Because lots of people will, it's like the coming home and having a cup of drinks or something like that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's a numbing that happens. And so that you're kind of shutting your head off, and scrolling would be doing the same thing. You're not really thinking, you're just sitting there sort of going through it. So as to pay attention to the things that distract and because we're using them to distract ourselves
Yeah.
or not, and recognizing that we're actually using that. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
would add into what you're talking about, like with using prompts to make the shift.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I think I was looking at the gene keys again too. Like it's a weird, this is one of the weirder three gene keys, right? It's addiction in the shadow, invention as the gift, and then silence, right? And so the invention in the middle for me is kind of like, what the heck's going on there? But as we're talking about it, like, addiction is this avoidance, right? It's avoidance of doing, it is a coping mechanism, right? That's what it is. It's solving some problem. I love how Gabor Mate talks about it, right? Like it is solving some problem. But then this invention piece is like, what? But it requires you, like, and this is a great energy for this. Like, this is this mind energy wanting to know, right? Like, so this idea of like using, instead of trying to avoid, using that energy to try to think of other things that might, whatever, might fill you up, might be new ways of being, might, whatever, might keep you in a space that feels better without the addiction. And then the silence, like again, like that is the goal for all of us, right? Like to be able to sit in silence and stillness is truly right. But it's not well supported in modernity.
Well, and interesting. So, a sign of needing hops is someone that can't sit in silence or stillness. That is a key note of needing it for yourself or others. And silence can look different ways, right? And so I'm not in silence if Netflix is blaring, right? So it's not just not talking.
Right.
And it could be out on a walk in nature.
Without listening to something.
Yeah, without having a book going in here or something like that. And it doesn't mean that like there's silence all around you. It's just that your head has slowed
Right.
down and now can actually appreciate everything else that's around.
Right. Right. And that's what at least what I've heard from people who are using substances in particular as a way to what they're trying to do in many cases is just to quiet their mind,
Yeah.
right? Quiet the voices, right? They are looking for silence. And it's just a tricky place to get to in this world that we've created. And that's, it's one of the ways that I guess you can do it. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a really interesting couple weeks as always. I will also say that we are also if we zoom out, these two gates are the last two gates of what is considered the yang part of the year, right? And so we've been in this very yang energy for half a year, and we are going to be coming into, when we come together next time, gate two is the most receptive, the most yin of all of the hexagrams, and it kicks off the yin season. So we are in a much more um, globally, just as a much more receptive time of year. And so it'll be interesting to me, like there may also be a push these last two, gates as well. I think there may be some of that energy too, like to move, like we're talking about it. We've been talking about it. Like we've got to change our habits. We've got to, right? Like I feel this energy coming through as this space is kind of closing up for the year, essentially.
Into more surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big shift. No pressure, people.
Yeah. No.
Oh, yeah, that feels pretty full for today. Right. So we will thank you for being with us and hope we'll see you next time.